Okay, I'm looking at it again.
I love how they look at night. During the day, it's just smoke, but when the sun is down, you can just get lost.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
Me too.
Good. I don't talk to the other lookouts as much as I talk to you. Not in the same way. I know it's probably been a while since you've connected with someone the way we have. I don't mean to get all heavy, but it's been really nice. I wish I was over there.
I wish you were too.
We could sit outside. We could talk without these radios. We could, you know,
What? What could we do?
well, let me tell you. You're going fishing without a license?
It's one fish, and I'm sick of all the stuff I got to eat.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have taken so much of it then. That reminds me, I keep hearing reports from Fish and Game about a problem bear they're trying to keep tabs on. Can you search around the lake for fresh tracks and just let me know what you find? There was a crew burning fire lines out to the east, and, I think sometimes it riles up the wildlife.
Sure, no problem. Remember me fondly.
You're such a drama queen.
Yeah, well, I've seen what they can do to a tree, and trees aren't even food.
Thank you, Henry.
Yeah.
This is Jared Emerson Johnson. I work for a company called Bay Area Sound. We did a lot of the sound editing and sound recording for the game. A lot of the ambience and a lot of the effects.
And I'm Chris Remo, and you've heard me on commentary before, but on this one I'm speaking in my capacity as, I guess, the audio director on this game, a role that I really did not deserve to have, and basically had to figure out as I was going along. We ended up developing, I think, a pretty close working relationship where we sort of split the sound design duties. It ended up being fairly half and half, probably slanted towards Jared in terms of total work volume.
Although you did you did the entirety of all the implementation, so you were sort of the mastermind of what we needed and how it should go in the game, and I just kind of took whatever you needed from me and made it. So I was sort of the content horse, and you were the overseer and
Overlord.
the overlord of sound. Yeah, which was great. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that you were inexperienced, but it was smoother than some projects go, and it was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, and you at one point went and did some field recordings.
The sound in the game kind of breaks down pretty evenly between sound effects, which are the footsteps and the interactive parts of the sound where the player's interacting with objects and things in the game, and then there's the ambience part. And especially in this game, in any game the ambience is important, but in this game that was sort of really where we started and finished in terms of what the sound needed to be in creating this space. And I actually had several recordings I've been making over the past 10 years or so, various other big outdoor national park locations, stuff from Yosemite and stuff from... I've actually been hiking on the Pacific Crest Trail over the past 10 years, which is a trail that goes all the way from Mexico up to Canada. So it's great. So, I mean, really, all of the ambient sound you're hearing is really coming from real wild spaces up in the mountains.
Yeah, and the ambience, man, I think it took us so long to dial in the approach we wanted to take, both in terms of the source material itself and also the way that it was designed and implemented.
Right.
I mean, I feel like we were revising that basically until like the last third of game development. I mean, not even just revising, but I would say like fundamentally changing how it worked. And eventually, what's
Right.
in the game now is sort of a 3 layers of ambience that are mixed according to, where you are and the needs of the space and so on, plus additional what we called sweeteners of environmental noise, like sort of wildlife and wind rustles and things like that, to give it some character.
This project was really kind of unique in that way, in its relationship with the ambience, because it was such a key part of creating the atmosphere of it. We spent a whole lot of time figuring out how we wanted to sort of differentiate each of the individual sections of the park, and also at what point you are in the story, and how how the ambience should subtly change. It was probably the most detailed ambience work I've done on, I think, any project I've ever worked on doing this, just because it had to be so specific and subtle, but also evoke really clear tonal feeling across the game.
Yeah, I'm really happy.
Hi guys, it's Sean.
And Chris. So here on day 76, we're concluding a series of shorter days that internally we referred to as the montage.
The goal was to figure out a way to let you play through the passage of time.
The inspiration came from a few different places, and Sean, you can sort of correct or add as necessary. One was just obviously the cinematic concept of a montage. We thought that's just a cool way to, convey long passage of time without spending a huge amount of the player's time relative to that.
You referencing movies made me think of every sports montage ever, like every training montage, and then remembering that for like 3 weeks I was obsessed with this idea because we were trying to figure out ways to come up with new gating mechanics. And I was like, oh, there should just be like ledges and stuff that Henry isn't strong enough to pull himself up. And then inside of this montage, there should be like a part where Henry goes like underneath his tower, and there's this like a support pole that goes across it, and you can just
tension
do
rod.
pull-ups. And you can do pull-ups
I
2 or 3
forgot about
times
that.
during the montage, and then by the time we get to day 76, Henry just
ripped.
has the strength, the upper body strength to pull himself to higher, which would explain the new gating mechanic. So
Right.
it was like sports montage to the max. We would have
Yeah.
had to get like another 80s song in
Like
the
a
game.
jock
or something.
jam.
Yeah. Oh, I would have killed for a jock jam in this game.
Yeah,
I would have
yeah.
given up Etta James for a jock jam in this game. Just kidding. I absolutely would not.
No.
Anyway,
Sports montages, as well as film montages, important influence here. Also, the game 30 Flights of Loving,
Big
I
one.
think. Yeah, that is a very short, like 10-minute experience. If you look it up, 30 Flights of Loving, by a guy named Brendan Chung, who's just a brilliant independent game developer. I did the music for that game, coincidentally. And that game is pretty much entirely told through a series of hard cuts out of chronological order. And when we sort of combined what we liked about that and thought would work in our game with the existing day structure that we talked about earlier, it just made sense as this sort of second act of the game. Something that I think is surprisingly rare in games. You don't see a lot of montage in video games.
no. And I kind of know why. It's
Yeah.
technically actually
It's not even
really hard.
It is really hard, and we actually strayed from our original concept, which was much more of a montage with very quick
Yeah.
shots. I mean, it's a stretch maybe actually to call it a montage because
Right.
you play several minutes of game at a time.
Yeah. There is a moment in here like where you can, if you take all the food.
Oh
from
yeah,
the-
if you do that, you'll
get a
bonus.
a very
track.
small day, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a tape on that.
There is, yeah.
That is montage-y in length, but it's a technical hurdle to make a montage.
It's hard. You have to load the entire world in and out.
Yeah, so
suddenly.
you made like being able to cut on a beat like a montage would sort of impossible because
Mm-hmm.
we're loading scenes and moving you all over the map and redressing the scene every time, and it's
Yeah.
you have to actually build quite a technological underpinning to do one, and I think that's maybe at the core. Something
Yeah.
we discovered, at least.
Yep. Hey, it's Chris again.
And it's James again.
This moment by the lake where you get punched out by the person who turns out to be Ned Goodwin is one of the few times in the game where we have a complete takeover cutscene like this, sort of fully animated.
It shoulders the burden for the whole second half of the game of the player feeling scared. Like when they get to the research site, a lot of people have talked to me about they were always worried that they were going to get punched again because it happens from behind, so they're constantly sort of like spinning the camera around. It's along with like the rope breaking on day one, it's probably like one of the biggest punchy action set pieces I got to animate. And it's also interesting that like most of the action happens off camera, so I'm sort of implying a bunch of stuff and then sort of handing it over to audio and being like, okay, you need to basically make most of this actually work.
Yeah, scoring this was almost like scoring a tiny little radio drama because there are the sort of creeping footsteps behind you and they're panning slightly from right to left as they approach, and then there's the big like Indiana Jones style fist punch sound, which was really fun. That was definitely the most outrageous sound I got to put in this game. And then the ringing, yeah, it was really fun. This moment changed a fair amount because it was so incredibly difficult to communicate to the player, oh, there's this exact little thing on the ground that you have to notice and pick up, and you have to do that for the game to progress. There was actually a version of this where you didn't technically need to pick up the radio, and it just led to way too much like design uncertainty and confusion.
Yeah, this was definitely one of those points where we had to be realistic about, is the game actually getting better for giving you the option to completely ignore every single part of the through line of the game? And in this case we said, no, it's not actually.
Yeah, a lot of this game ended up being about finding a compromise between player expressivity and actually making sure some kind of coherent story got told. So this was quite a significant example of that in development. It took a long time to nail down, but I'm pretty happy with where it ended up.
Someone left their clipboard out here.
Huh. It could have been one of the Fish and Game folks. See if there's a name or a credential or something. I can call it in.
What the? It's... Holy shit.
What's going on? You didn't actually find a bear, did you?
Someone has written down what we said to each other, have been saying.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't talk to the other lookouts as much as I talk to you, not in the same way.
No way.
Wait, hold on. Something's out here.
Henry? I'm worried. You didn't find and eat any mushrooms, did you? I mean, they can be fun, but also, devastating. Regardless, just let me know, okay, Buckaroo? Oh, God. I don't know why I just called you that.
I found a walkie-talkie out here, too.
Okay.
It's going shithouse.
Well, get it if you haven't already, and then we'll figure out whose it is.
Will do.
Henry?
Holy hell, I got hit in the head. Punched or something by someone.
Are you serious? What the hell is going on out there?
I don't know. Jesus Christ.
Let me get this straight. You found a clipboard with, what, transcripts of our conversations? What else is on it?
I don't know. It's gone, along with the radio of theirs. Somebody out here could have just killed me, Delilah.
What the fuck is going on?
What's Wapiti Station?
I don't know.
I saw the name Wapiti Station right before I was cold-cocked. Does Wapiti Station mean anything to you?
Wapiti Meadow. Maybe it's Wapiti Meadow. It's on our maps. It's not too far from where you are right now. It's where you saw that damn fence. It's north of the lake. It looks like there should be a trail somewhere on the north shore of Jonesy Lake.
I'll start hiking that way now. God damn it, my head.
Are you sure you saw what you saw, Henry? Maybe you pissed off some more campers and they came back to sucker punch you.
Look, I know what I saw. Hey, it was our words with initials for our names, H and D, clear as day.
You haven't been drinking, have you?
No, Jesus.
Okay, I'm sorry. I believe you, but that conversation was from 2 weeks ago.
I know they were. So what's to say that they don't have transcripts from 3, 4, or 5 weeks ago?
Our entire relationship, friendship, our whole summer.
Someone is out here with a walkie-talkie taking notes and talking to God knows who. What do you think is going on behind that fence?
Apparently a lot of following you around taking notes, which is unfucking believable, Henry.
You're telling me. All right, I'm on my way to Wapiti Meadow. I'll let you know what I find.
Okay. There's got to be a reasonable explanation. Also, I'm gonna call around and see if anyone's had anything weird happen to them or seemed spooked. I don't want to make this bigger than it is yet, you know?
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, okay. Hike safe.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Sean. There's a turtle here.
There's a turtle here. I think it's probably your doing, even though in classic Campo Santo form, playing like autopsy detective on how the turtle got into the game is not yielding any definitive results.
I think I remember wanting something. Like I said, I just want a place that's very pleasant in the game, and I also want something very cute in the game. I think that was kind of on my wish list.
And we killed 2 turts with 1 stone here.
And then someone maybe said something about turtles, and then
A turtle, I think a turtle fit into the scope of what creature we could let you find and manipulate and animate, and we
Yeah.
weren't afraid of it then.
Because we were also
We
thinking
had the idea
like,
really early, and we were afraid of animals.
yeah, because you're like, what if someone wants to like throw a thing? Like if you throw a cute animal, usually that will hurt the animal, and then maybe someone said it would be fine if it's a turtle.
And you can definitely launch this turtle right into the lake, and hopefully Henry will say something about it if you do, which is one of my favorite moments in the game. And then I think Turt Reynolds, the name you can choose for him, was a bad joke made by a guy who shares an office with us, Zach Johnson from Kingdom of Loathing. He came out and said, "What about Turt Reynolds?" And we all groaned, and then I wrote it down.
And then we were like, well, now we have to have a turtle in the game.
Yeah. And then Turt made his debut at E3 2015 in the Firewatch E3 trailer, and people lost their silly minds.
Yeah,
for
we were like,
Turt.
if we put Turt in this trailer, then we have to make it work in the finished game.
Yeah, he has to be a cornerstone. And then, you can feed him when you put him in you can give him a granola bar when you put him in the
Yeah, I
box
think
back in your tower. I think that's still in the game. Yeah, you got all your wishes.
I know.
Okay, I'm at the fence. I don't see anyone around, but I'm not sure I can get past it.
How big is it?
Big. It goes off in both directions. Acres.
What the fuck is going on out here?
Whatever it is, someone doesn't want anyone to know about it. Looks like goddamn Area 51.
Maybe they've got aliens. That'd be exciting.
Yeah, we'll see about that. And what are the odds they left the gate unlocked?
Pretty low, I'd imagine.
Look, I'm not going to be able to get into this place.
Shit.
I don't know how long I can dick around out here until someone notices.
God, if you were an actual firefighter, you'd have that gate down in 2 shakes. Hey, actually, those guys doing the controlled burn, they might be able to help.
Where are they?
Beyond Ruby River, there's a scout camp. They burned a line a few days ago that should let you hike right to them.
Well, that's great.
If they haven't left, they're probably the type of guys who would help you get through that fence.
So here we are at the gate of what Henry only knows is Wapiti Meadow.
Soon to be known as Wapiti Station.
Dun dun dun. So we can even talk about how you actually technically don't have to come here on this day at all, but presuming you haven't done anything strange, you now have to attempt to break in to this weird fence that's just seemingly out of nowhere in the middle of the woods.
And realizing that the story needed that, we then were in a pickle where we went, well, we've never made you do anything like that before. Like, go and do an adventure game thing. Like, use an object with an object. And so we kind of put ourselves in a position via the story. And I think this is what I would classify as, like, not great game design, folks.
Correct.
Where I, for lack of, I'll take full credit, I guess, had pushed us into a place with the story where you needed to try to get into this place to justify going somewhere else less important to find a way to get in later. Because when you're telling a story, like, and then you have to kind of create a diversion, you don't want to be like, the most important thing you want is behind this gate, but you need to go elsewhere to get behind it. It's like the biggest, like, bugaboo of adventure game design, but we had written ourselves right into it, and the story was now like, or the game design was now subservient to the story, which is really bad if you're a game designer or an aspiring game designer.
Not the best place to be.
Not great. So Nels and Will and James set about piecing together the concept of being able to pick up things and then contextually change the action you could do with those things. And in terms of look and feel, I think you guys did a great job of being able to pick up the rocks that are to the left of the gate. There is, you probably don't know this player because it's very difficult to see, but there is a stick to the right of the gate.
And there's another one off to the left. Once you try to get in some fashion, the game is agnostic about which. Then you can say like, hey, Delilah, I don't think I can get in here. And of course, in like, classic Firewatch fashion, there's a bunch of very subtle like micro branches where if you actually try to break in with all 3 of the things, Henry's like, I tried to smash it and break it, I can't do it. So there's like a little bit of reactivity there that's cool, but also me and James and Will basically had to go through like a baton death march to get this to work, just because nothing else in the game at all works this way. With like because the objects, they're in your hand, but then as you use them on the gate, then they're destroyed, but they have to go somewhere and it has to sync up with a special. It's just any one element that is complicated to do in the game to make look nice, and it has like all 10 of them.
And it's not built on any sort of like reusable system, because we didn't imagine we were making a game where you would use thing on a thing like you do in like Monkey Island or whatever. But we walked ourselves right to that, unfortunately. But I think you guys did a valiant job, and I really love the way it actually feels to do it. I am just glad I wasn't the gameplay programmer on it. I'm very happy about that.
Lucky you. So here we are at the gate of what Henry only knows is Wapiti Meadow.
Soon to be known as Wapiti Station.
Dun dun dun. So we can even talk about how you actually technically don't have to come here on this day at all, but presuming you haven't done anything strange, you now have to attempt to break in to this weird fence that's just seemingly out of nowhere in the middle of the woods.
And realizing that the story needed that, we then were in a pickle where we went, well, we've never made you do anything like that before. Like, go and do an adventure game thing. Like, use an object with an object. And so we kind of put ourselves in a position via the story, and I think this is what I would classify as, like, not great game design, folks.
Correct.
Where I, for lack of, I mean, I'll take full credit, I guess, had pushed us into a place with the story where you needed to try to get into this place to justify going somewhere else less important to find a way to get in later. Because when you're telling a story, like, and then you have to kind of create a diversion, you don't want to be like, the most important thing you want is behind this gate, but you need to go elsewhere to get behind it. It's like the biggest like bugaboo of adventure game design, but we had written ourselves right into it, and the story was now like, or the game design was now subservient to the story, which is really bad if you're a game designer or an aspiring game designer.
Not the best place to be.
Not great. So Nels and Will and James set about piecing together the concept of being able to pick up things and then contextually change the action you could do with those things. And in terms of look and feel, I think you guys did a great job of being able to pick up the rocks that are to the left of the gate. There is, you probably don't know this player because it's very difficult to see, but there is a stick to the right of the gate.
And there's another one off to the left. Once you try to get in some fashion, the game is agnostic about which. Then you can say like, hey, Delilah, I don't think I can get in here. And of course, in like, classic Firewatch fashion, there's a bunch of very subtle like micro branches where if you actually try to break in with all three of the things, Henry's like, I tried to smash it and break it, I can't do it. So there's like a little bit of reactivity there that's cool, but also me and James and Will basically had to go through like a baton death march to get this to work, just because nothing else in the game at all works this way. With like because the objects, they're in your hand, but then as you use them on the gate, then they're destroyed, but they have to go somewhere and it has to sync up with a special. It's just any one element that is complicated to do in a game to make look nice, and it has like all 10 of them.
And it's not built on any sort of like reusable system because we didn't imagine we were making a game where you would use thing on a thing like you do in like Monkey Island or whatever. But we walked ourselves right to that, unfortunately. But I think you guys did a valiant job, and I really love the way it actually feels to do it. I am just glad I wasn't the gameplay programmer on it. I'm very happy about that.
Lucky you.
I'm wandering around east of the lake. Which way is Ruby River?
It's in the southeast corner of your map. The scout camp where the firefighters were staged should be on your map. It looks like a little triangle with a flat bottom.
Yeah, it looks like a tent.
How did I never see that before? Hey, I called around. Things seem normal with everyone else.
Has anything strange been happening on your end?
No, nothing really.
Nothing really, or nothing?
Nothing. My door was open the other night, but that's not strange.
That doesn't sound like nothing.
It's nothing, I promise.
All right, I'm headed toward the camp anyway.
Okay. Keep your radio close to you.
Hey, what you just said, keep my radio close to me.
Yeah?
Before I got attacked back at the lake, I saw a radio on the ground, kind of like the one I use.
And?
Do you think that maybe someone was,
I don't know. What?
hailing me, following me around, like working with other people?
Henry, you are way too much of a dope to be in the mob.
Someone is clearly able to hear us sometimes and was hiding near the lake. Come on.
I just...
Just admit it. You're a little worried.
Of course I'm worried, but let's just try to keep things calm, okay? Keep things on an even keel.
I'm back up at the top of the shale slide near Two Forks.
Good.
What's the best route?
Well, it's not far from that medicine wheel. Hike east-southeast of there and look for the controlled burn. And good luck keeping ashes off your pants. I know we don't know what's going on yet, but I don't have a good feeling. I don't like feeling vulnerable. It's not like you can just call the police. I was thinking about the Goodwins. It just struck me that if anything weird like this happened to them, happened to Brian, just how scared he would have been.
He had his dad to protect him. Ned, right?
Yeah.
You don't think he could?
No, you're probably right.
It was 3 years ago. He's in high school now. He's on summer break.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Hi, it's Jake.
And it's Jane.
We are at the medicine wheel, which
Yes.
was a thing that I put into the game when I was first grayboxing it and learning how to make anything in a game like this.
That wasn't really early, I think. Basically, we put in a tower, and then very soon afterwards, that was the medicine wheel.
Yeah, it was just like, I think it was a thing Sean and I thought would be cool to have in the game. I did not know how to make a medicine wheel, so, or rather, I didn't know how to make a video game, I guess. So I made it the way a real medicine wheel is made, which is out of a ton of tiny, tiny rocks, which meant that whenever anyone in the office turned their camera towards where the medicine wheel was,
From the tower.
From the tower, the frame rate died. And then you went in and fixed it, which is great. And by replacing it with like a real game thing that a real
And also, it actually streams out really fast now.
yeah, it's like the
Anyway.
most efficient medicine wheel ever put in a game.
And it's a fantastic landmark, actually, because you know, there's like nothing else like it in the game. I was like, oh, the medicine wheel, like you instantly know where you are.
Yep. When doing work on Firewatch's environment art and skies and all these other things, what do you keep in mind when you think about like a player has walked through here before? How do I keep it fresh when they come back through?
So we want to make sure that it looks different from different directions, and also the lighting and the feel of the whole area has got to be different, so it seems like a totally new area.
Yeah, it was surprising to me how much, even if you're walking like just north to south through an area, if you go through it once and then if you go through it the next day, or a later part in the game and you and Ollie have just swung the sun 180 degrees, so all the shadows are going the other way, it can feel completely fresh. Or the obvious trick is make them go through it the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But
But both things together really make a whole space feel like a totally new space.
yeah, that was a thing that I think you and Ollie and I collectively tried really hard to do, is like keep the player walking in as many different directions at as many different times of day as we could, because we knew that the world was fixed. It's not.
Yeah, like we want to reuse areas, but also we don't want to feel like we're making people backtrack, right?
Yeah,